Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to another review. The game we're reviewing today is Minishoot Adventures. This is a game made by our beloved Soulgame studio, which I learned about its existence recently when I played Source and Souls Legacy Collection. This game popped up underneath, and I was obviously gonna give it a try as a massive Soul Game Studio fan. I was really curious to see hmm, what else they had been making. This is a game from 2 years ago, so it's still pretty new. And obviously, I was going to give it a try to see if Soul Game Studio is still making any bangers. So as usual, we're going to be splitting the review into 4 parts concerning gameplay, visual story, and soundtrack. I usually also split my reviews into a spoiler-free and a spoiler-full part, but I don't think that's necessary for this game. There's not a whole lot that I think can be spoiled about this, and I'm not going to be discussing like the story in detail. So we're not doing spoiler-free, spoiler-full parts this time around. So let's start off with the gameplay. So Minishoot Adventures is a bullet hell game where you control a little ship and you shoot at the enemies while also avoiding their bullets. It's pretty fun. I haven't played a bullet girl a bullet hell game in a while, so it was nice to come back to the genre because I do like bullet hell, and I do think this is a really good bullet hell game. It's not terribly difficult, but it is pretty tough. Like, it's definitely not the hardest bullet hell I've ever experienced. Not even close. But it is pretty tough. Like, I think the game is well balanced. And on the normal difficulty, it's pretty easy. But on the hard difficulty, which I started a second playthrough on, it is quite tough. And I think well balanced. Like, it keeps a good level of difficulty, in my opinion. Yeah, and overall, the whole gist of the game is very simple. It's just bullet hell. You explore around, you fight enemies, you dodge bullets. There's bosses. You upgrade your ship. It's not very complex, and I like it. It's very fun. It's also a really convenient game in terms of like it's really user friendly. There's just not a whole lot of strategizing and thinking you have to do. Like I said, this is just pure bullet hell gameplay. All the upgrades you get, you just find them or get them as rewards for beating bosses, and you just have them. Usually, when you've got upgrades that give you special abilities or affect your stats a certain way, you usually have like limited slots to equip them, so you have to build, craft, and experiment with different upgrades. And while I do enjoy build crafting, it is nice every once in a while to have a game that just lets you have everything. In this game, when you get an upgrade, you just have it. You don't need to worry about equipping it or increasing your upgrade space or swapping out one upgrade for another and making sure that you have the best upgrades equipped. No, you just pick them up and you have them. It's very convenient. Same way with the looting. I like that you don't have to like pick up the loot when you blow up enemies and they just shatter into a million coins. They get picked up on their own. You don't have to like walk over them or anything. All the loot just gets picked up. So it's a very convenient game. There's not a whole lot of confusion or anything like that involved. It's very straightforward, which I do like. It's cool. So yeah, while I do think that the game is very enjoyable overall and has a nice gameplay loop, there are a few problems that I will mention. So I think my biggest issue with the game is the open world is very easy to get lost in sometimes. Because it's an open world game, there's not like stages or anything like that. This is open world, so you just walk around and you explore different areas, and there are some areas that you can only get to later on. And I think it's very easy to get lost in the open world at times. Even with the map and like the map markers and stuff, it's still pretty confusing because most of the areas look the same. Well, okay. What I mean by that is the game does have a few very diverse regions, which all do look really cool, but all the areas in a particular region look the same, and so it's very easy to get lost, like, within the premises of a single region. That's what I was referring to when I said everything was the same. I don't think it's not like the game doesn't have any sort of visual variety or anything like that. No, that's not what I mean. But yeah, the biggest problem with the game is that it's easy to get lost and it is annoying sometimes. Didn't ruin the game, obviously. I was able to find my way around eventually, but it was the only thing pretty much that somewhat affected my enjoyment of the game. Is that it's kind of hard to remember where you've been or where you're supposed to go. It's a bit mazy at times. Apart from that, there were a few more slight issues that I'm going to mention. So first of all, this one's completely insignificant, but when you're opening the game, you have to choose which controller prompts you want to use. If you're using an Xbox controller, you want the game to show you Xbox prompts, and when you're using a PlayStation controller, you want the game to be showing you PlayStation prompts, right? And you have to And the game doesn't remember your selection of controllers, so every single time you boot up the game, you have to go to the settings and change the controller, which is not a big deal. It takes like 5 seconds, but doing it every single time you open the game can get a little annoying. But yeah, not a big issue at all. And when it comes to bugs, I didn't encounter any sort of technical issues with this game apart from one, which might be my laptop's fault, but I will mention it anyway. So sometimes, if you open the map too much, which I do, I'm someone who benefits a lot from minimaps, and this game doesn't have a minimap. So when I'm going somewhere, I'll keep opening the map every 2 seconds to make absolutely sure that I'm headed the right way. And if you do that, if you open the map too many times in quick succession, then the game drops to literally 1 frame per second for like a minute. And you have to wait out that minute for the game to start running properly again. Again, I suppose that could be an issue with my laptop, but it was really, really weird because it didn't have any problems running the game. The game ran super smoothly, super great. Apart from this one instance where if I opened the map too many times, it would just drop to 1 frame per second for a while, and then I'll have to wait before continuing to play the game. So maybe it's a computer thing, maybe it's an in-game thing. I'm mentioning it anyway, just in case. Right, so I guess that about covers it for the gameplay part. Let's move on to the visuals. The game just looks really nice. Like I said, there are a lot of varied regions which all look very cool. I always just love this kind of cartoony art style. It reminds me, it's very nostalgic to me. It reminds me of Flash games and, the good old days. So I've always just been a huge fan of games with this kind of cartoony art style. It does look great here. It's very colorful, very flashy, very shiny, very just just very nice to look at overall. No complaints on the visuals whatsoever. And there's, like I said, a lot of visual variety to the areas that you visit. So that brings us to the story part. I am not going to talk too much about the story. It's extremely simple. Uh, you have to defeat the evil bad guy who wants to corrupt the entire world with his evilness. It's a story you've seen in millions of other games. Nothing too nothing too crazy there. But one story-related thing which I do think is pretty interesting is the whole premise of the world, uh, because you're not a pilot controlling a ship, you're a sentient ship, and all the characters in this game are also sentient ships. All the enemies are also ships. And it's really cool because in different areas you have these different versions of ships. You have like underwater ships, you have like fish tails, and they like swim around. You have in the desert area, you have ships that burrow under the ground, and you have these big like worm-like ships. It's a really cool premise that the whole world is just inhabited by sentient ships. It's pretty fun. It's a pretty fun design. Reminds you of stuff like Pixar's Cars or Planes or you know that kind of stuff. Yeah, I do like the premise of the world. The story itself, though, is nothing too crazy. It's very standard. So I'm not gonna go into the detail about it. And when it comes to the soundtrack, it's good. I do like the soundtrack. It does feel it does fit the aesthetic, the visual aesthetic of the game. It's very uplifting, very cute, very just like I said, it really just goes with the cartoony, cute vibe of the game. And a lot of the boss fight themes do sound a lot like the the boss theme from Rogue Soul 2. So that's another nice touch. And the sound effects are also a lot of the sound effects in the game are also taken from old Soul game titles. So if you're a fan of Rogue Soul or Swords and Souls, you'll hear a lot of familiar sounds in this game, and that's very cute. So yeah, that's my review of Minishoot Adventures. I do think it's a great game. It's very fun. I don't know if I'd call it Soul Game's best work. It could be potentially, but I don't know. I'm still just such a huge fan of Swords and Souls Never Seen. It's also a longer game. Minishoot is actually somewhat short. It to beat the whole to max out a single save file with like all the collectibles, all the boss fights, everything. It took me about 10 hours, and now I'm doing a second save file on the hard difficulty because there's an achievement for that. So I think maybe to completely finish everything, that might take me like more or less 20 hours, and Swords and Souls Never Seen did take. I'm not really sure how long it took for a single playthrough, but it is definitely more than that to max out everything. So I still do think that Never Seen is my favorite Soul game studio game, but Minishoot would probably be a close second. It's a really good game, and I'm really happy to see that these developers who've been making iconic Flash games who've made all of these iconic Flash games so many years ago are still actively developing games of this quality. It's very nice to see. So if you're a Soul game fan, this is a must play. And yeah, that's about it for this review. Mm, I will see you guys soon for the review of 007 First Light, which is coming out in like 3 weeks. And I'm pretty excited for the game. So yeah, I will see you guys then.